like 600 years before Jesus Christ,
Yes.
Mithras was also born December 25th, was also born the Virgin Mary, and was also resurrected on the
Have you
third.
ever heard someone say that Jesus is simply another myth, no different from the ancient gods of history? It's a claim that has circulated for years, leaving many people wondering whether the story of Christ is truly unique or simply borrowed from older traditions. But when we carefully examine the evidence, a very different picture begins to emerge. And what we discover may surprise you. Before we dive into today's message, let us know where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a faith-building story. Now let's explore what God's Word reveals.
Like 600 years before Jesus Christ,
Yes.
Mithras was also born December 25th, was also born the Virgin Mary, and was also resurrected on the third day, and was also crucified. And same as the god of Horus was also born December 25th, resurrected the third day, was crucified, the same thing. And like I feel like Jesus Christ is the same thing as like a Martin Luther King or a Gandhi. He died for, with civil disobedience. And I feel like it's the same thing. If someone were to write about Gandhi, it would have the same outlook as Jesus Christ. Like, what if he was just like another person that was, for the greater good of humankind? Like greater good, more greater good than what religion does to the world itself now.
It's fascinating you raised that question, because yesterday I studied Mithraism, Osiris, and Horus. All right, great question. First point, Jesus was not born on December 25th. December 25th is simply a holiday that has been attached to the birth of Christ. So Christ was not born on December 25th, that's just a tradition.
Born of a virgin too, I just don't like to brag about it.
What was the significance of Mithra? The significance of his life was he killed a bull. That's the whole focus of Mithraism. Mithra killed the bull. Sir, the idea that Mithra was crucified, the idea that Mithra rose from the dead, those thoughts occurred way AD. Hundreds of years after Christ.
So was the New Testament.
Pardon?
So was the New Testament.
No, the New Testament was written in the 1st century. You know how we know that?
AD?
Yeah,
AD
1st century AD, after the birth of Christ.
Right.
In the
So
Gospels
stories passed on from other people that saw Jesus, and that people. It's like playing the game telephone. By the end of the time, you're gonna have a whole different story than what you started with.
Okay? The Gospel of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John were written by the eyewitnesses, or those who knew the eyewitnesses, in the 1st century. The way that we know that is Ignatius, Bishop of Antioch, in letters he writes in 95 AD, quotes the Gospels. Clement, Bishop of Rome, writing in 115 AD, quotes the Gospels. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 3 through 8, the Apostle Paul writes, "What I received, I passed on to you as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised from the dead, according to the Scriptures." When did Paul write 1 Corinthians 15? Between 50 and 54 AD. Sir, that's within 25 years of the death and resurrection of Christ. So whoever told you that the Gospels were written hundreds of years after Christ, I'm sorry, they're inaccurate. They're wrong. We have a fragment of the Gospel of John today in the John Rylands Museum in Manchester, England. It's verses from John chapter 18, and it's dated between 117 and 130 AD. So, sir, it's obvious that the Gospels were written in the 1st century by the eyewitnesses or by those who knew the eyewitnesses. Now, the resurrection of Osiris is the only resurrection that is in BC, that predates the resurrection of Christ. So now you've got to study the resurrection of Osiris. And when you study it, sir, what you'll find out is he was sliced up into 14 different pieces. He was killed. Then what happened? His sister Isis went around finding his parts. She found 13 of the 14 parts. So she puts the 13 parts back together again. And what does Osiris experience? He does not experience a resurrection body the way Jesus Christ physically rose from the dead. Instead, Osiris becomes the god of the underworld, a spiritual existence. So you do not, sir, have a physical resurrection. You have a spiritual resurrection of Osiris, where you've got 13 of his 14 parts in a spirit form in the underworld.
It doesn't ever say that there's any kind of correlation between him and the underworld, just in a spiritual kind of realm. And although he had his 13 pieces put together, the 13th piece was made from a spiritual kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering where you're getting that Osiris was in the realm of the underworld.
I studied it yesterday, sir. That's how I get it.
I mean, I'll
It's
compare
very
it.
clear.
I'll go to the library
Just
and
check
Google
out
it.
Osiris. Good. Check out Osiris. He's put together again by his sister Isis, and he rules in the underworld, in a spiritual realm of the underworld.
Just because you're in a spiritual realm doesn't mean that it's an underworld.
All right, fine. If you have a problem with underworld, fine. He's in a spiritual realm.
So what's not to say that he was in the spiritual realm of the heavens?
Well, it definitely doesn't say that, but if you want to add that, go ahead. But what it does say is that he was not a physical being. The resurrection of Christ is not a spiritual resurrection, guys. In Luke chapter 24, when Jesus appears to his disciples, they think, oh no, we're hallucinating. This is a spirit. And what does Jesus do? He comes right up to him and says, grab hold of me and see. A spirit does not have flesh and bone the way you see I have. What does he do to Thomas? He doesn't say, hey Thomas, here I am, the ghost. No. He says, right here, Thomas, take your hands and put them in the nail prints in my hands, and Thomas stopped doubting and believed. So obviously, the clear claim of the Gospels is Jesus physically died on a cross. 3 days later, he physically rose from the dead, and over a period of 40 days, he appears to over 500 people who see him risen from the dead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, what my guess or understanding on that is where that information would come from other people's interpretations. So I'm not doubting that when the people were writing about this, that they didn't know what's going on, but they are writing their interpretations of what happened. And you're talking about that even some of the people just knew the eyewitnesses. Well, just knowing the eyewitness is not a direct link to the kind of information that's there. They're only giving their personal interpretation, and if we were looking under God's eyes, personal interpretations can be wrong.
I agree. Good point. So, if I say to you,
Well, it's all based on deception.
I'm an atheist, is it fair for you to interpret me to be saying, I believe that God exists? Is that a good interpretation? Either the miracle happened and the virgin had a baby, or the miracle didn't happen and Mary had sex with someone, and that's how Jesus was born. It's not a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of, did the miracle occur or did it not?
Okay, so how are we supposed to know today if the miracle did or did not occur?
Very simple.
By looking at other people's interpretations?
No. First of all, you ask yourself, does my worldview allow for a miracle to happen?
Yes.
Yours does? So that means you believe in some type of God or gods, right?
I believe in a higher power. That doesn't mean that they're a God.
Okay. But you believe there's more to reality than matter and energy.
No, I believe that the reality is energy.
Okay, well if all of reality is matter and energy, how can a miracle happen?
Because energy can be manipulated in the ways that we might not understand right now.
Who's going to manipulate it?
The conscious being.
Okay. So what you're telling me is you think that a woman who hasn't had sex with a man can consciously manipulate her body so she can have a child?
No.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. Because I would say that's irrational. Sir, the only way it's possible for a virgin to have a baby is if there was a supernatural God who created the laws of nature. Therefore, he is capable of changing a law of nature and performing what you and I call a miracle, a virgin having a baby. That's the only way it can happen. If there is no God, it's impossible for a virgin to have a baby. And if you don't believe me, just go to biology.
Just because something is not being able to be explained today doesn't mean that it can't be explained in the past. Just like in the past, we look at the sky and we're like, why is that blue? Why are there stars? We didn't understand, so we'd make up explanations for that. And now, as science evolves, we're able to tell what we weren't able to tell back then. So just by saying that, well, today we don't know that, that it's impossible that a woman could get pregnant without actually, sperm entering the egg. Well, just because you can't explain that today doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to explain it scientifically in the future.
If there is no supernatural God, guys, virgins never have babies. And if you haven't learned that yet in biology class, that's embarrassing, okay? okay? So the only way a virgin can have a baby is if there's a supernatural God who changes a law of nature and performs what you and I call a miracle. Philosophically, if you say there is no God, it's impossible for a miracle to happen, because if there is no God, all of reality is matter and energy. And matter and energy operate in a very consistent way. We call it the laws of nature, the laws of science.
Quantum mechanics.
Thank you.
Quantum mechanics.
We're starting to show that the atom is all empty space. So we can look around and wonder how this matter is made up around us. It's all empty. Everything that we see is just projection from within our own mind.
Within the last year or two.
Wait. Say that last sentence again.
Everything that we see is a projection of what's happening within our own mind, our own conscious, and all of the conscious together. That's what God is. God is not someone off up in the sky that's preaching down, looking down, and be like, you sin, electric bull, you're going to hell. No, God is a collective consciousness of everyone. I'm God, you're God, everyone here is God.
Okay, now if what you say is right, that I cannot perceive reality, I just make up reality in my head with my perception.
It doesn't mean you make it up, but you are able to interpret the reality differently than how you might interpret it right now. It doesn't mean that it's just, made up. It's how you perceive things.
Really? Well, then where does your rational mind come from?
My rational mind comes from my consciousness.
What does that mean?
My consciousness is basically how, from birth, my life perceives all of the information around it. I'm sure you know of the Trinity, body, mind, and spirit. When we're born, we are born with the spirit, the new mind, and a new body. So we have the collective consciousness, which is the spirit, which is in all of us. The body is the physical way that we experience the reality, and the mind is the mind that interprets it, the actual consciousness.
What is spirit?
Spirit is what a lot of people like to refer to as God. Spirit is the kind of consciousness that everyone has and is able to basically use. And what can happen is when all the collective consciousness comes together with the same intent, that is when a miracle is able to happen, because there's such a strong force behind it, the unseen force that has a lot to do with quantum physics, that unexplainable things start to happen. And just because we're not to explain it now doesn't mean that we can't explain it into the future when we start learning about new things, the quantum mechanics, the way that consciousness really works.
What is spirit? Where does spirit come from?
Spirit started from the great beginning. A lot of people like to call it the Big Bang, everything like that. There was one consciousness. You might refer to him as God. A lot of people refer to him as a lot of different things. And as that happens, God, consciousness, wants to experience life in as many ways as it can. So it might send consciousness as this guy right here. Intelligent, smart guy, he's experiencing consciousness in his own way. And then he might want to send it to some other person in India who grows up in some kind of temple, Buddhist temple, whatever. And he's experiencing his consciousness in a different way. So it is all of the same consciousness experiencing it in different realms.
Does this stone have consciousness?
That is an extremely good question, and that's something that we're trying to figure out right now, is if inanimate things are able to have a consciousness. I'll tell you what the stone does have, is it all resonates on the same frequency that I do. You were bringing up energy and matter. Well, quantum physics is starting to show that everything is not as solid as we thought. It's more like a light wave, and it's a condensed light wave that is able to just manifest into something that's actually hard. So what we're trying to figure out now is, in what difference is my body have to this rock, because they're made of the same elements, the same energy, the same matter. That is where the Buddhists get the idea that the observer, seeing, and the phenomenon are one and the same. They're not actually separate, because we are all made of the same building blocks, the same unit that our reality is constructed of.
Sir, there was a Big Bang, right? About 15 billion years ago?
What are you saying?
There was a Big Bang about 15 billion years ago?
How the universe started, I don't know. But
do you accept the Big Bang theory or not?
I contemplate it. Aristotle once said that it's a mark of an educated mind to be able to contemplate an idea without accepting it.
Okay. So you don't accept the Big Bang, you just contemplate it.
Right.
Okay. Now, if your worldview is right, that consciousness is this vague thing, and that maybe this rock has consciousness.
It might be.
It might. Then why do you step on the rock and don't step on him? If the rock has consciousness and he has consciousness, why do you step on the rock and not step on him?
Just because I'm stepping on ground doesn't mean that I'm inflicting any kind of pain or hate to it.
What's the difference between me taking a machete, cutting a head of lettuce, cutting a cow's head, or cutting his head? Is there a difference?
Yes, there absolutely is a difference.
What's the basis?
Because plants are a way that everything in this life receives nutrition. There is not a single way to deny that. Everything comes from plants. And just because you're using a plant doesn't mean that you're even, again, hurting it, inflicting any kind of pain, because you're cycling through what is known as life. I would never hurt another human being because we're of the same species. You don't see lettuce going around chopping each other down. There's one universal force in the world, and it's consciousness. And if you ask me, consciousness is the same thing as love.
Okay,
All
very good.
there is love.
That's where you and I disagree. If what you say is true, nobody has innate value. They just have subjective value that we choose to subjectively
that
give
would
ourselves.
not be true. As where the question comes in, asking is where does consciousness comes in? Is because I have the spirit. Spirit, you know, everyone has a spirit. I wouldn't want to go to another person who's also experiencing reality through their body, mind, and then of course the collective spirit. I would never want to end their experience of reality, because that would ultimately break them of their connection between their body and mind and spirit. And now I'm done.
Okay. The only way there can be more to reality than matter and energy, the only way there can be a spirit, logically, is if there is some type of God to create the spirit. Because if there's no God, then all of reality is matter and energy evolved to a higher order. The way you simply blindly, gullibly say, oh, there is spirit, you don't know that. If you philosophically say, my starting point is matter and energy, you can't just add spirit to that. But if there's a God who creates matter and energy and also creates spirit, then it's possible that spirit exists. The only way there can be more to reality than matter and energy is if there is some type of God to create spirit, to create a value of justice, to create a value of love, to create a value of kindness. You cannot put spirit into a mathematical equation. You cannot put love into a test tube. You cannot give me a foot of justice. Those are intangible, non-material values. The only way those values can be real is if there's more to reality than simple matter and energy. That's my point.
Do you mind if I?
Please, you got the floor.
You are saying that that is the only way that it's able. The only way that there could be a spirit is if there was a God. Okay, well then, where would you get your justification for that?
Because when you say there is no God, you're automatically limiting reality to obviously matter and energy.
No.
You are limiting yourself if you say there is a God and now I have to devote my life praising this one person. It limits the true abilities and capabilities that the human is able to achieve.
I agree with you. I've never said that, what you just said.
Okay.
I've never said that once. Instead, we're having a philosophical discussion right now about reality. Is reality just matter and energy, or is there a spirit? Are there values like justice and love and compassion that are non-physical, non-material values? My point is, if those values are real, justice, love, spirit, then there's got to be more to reality than just matter and energy. There's got to be some type of God to create and define spirit, justice. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Good question. Because inanimate matter and energy have no ability to define or experience love, justice, kindness, compassion, or rational thinking. It takes a rational mind to think rationally. It takes a conscience of a human being to just say that is just, that is unjust, and to understand that. The leaf, the tree, the rock has no ability to appreciate justice, compassion, rational thinking, or free will.
That's not true.
Can I?
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Love is a kind of frequency, okay?
Love is a frequency?
It resonates to everything.
Yeah.
They have recorded heart monitoring systems when someone fills ourselves with full of negative thoughts. It's super disharmonious. The beat is just going all over the place. But when someone focuses on pure love energy, just unconditional love, that is to all, not just all living, but to everything that there is, the heart starts working in a perfect, harmonious way. It is called synchronicity. It's when everything comes together in a perfect, flowing kind of way. So to say that a tree is not able to experience love is not true, because if you are to sit there next to a tree while it's growing, you go every day, 5 hours a day, and project love as much as you can into that tree, it can guarantee, scientifically will prove that that tree will grow more healthier and better.